A lot of what is keeping you from performing is anxiety, not knowing where you're going to land, not having sure the process of where you want to be at, not having a blueprint of what if it doesn't work, anxiety levels that will slow you down, the time that it takes you to go from one place to the other within your time frames, within what you expect of delivery after a certain time. So, coming to the concept of time is dead, being able to push down all the blockages of not knowing where you're going to land is an ability. It is a skill that you're going to want to have with the pass of time. The pass of time, realizing that you're able to kill that. You're able to remove that from the equation. You don't want to be subject under time. And if you are pressured by time, needing or wanting to produce more within the time frame, know that the battle scheme of things, the battle lands are requiring for you to develop skills, requiring for you to go through different frameworks and not be overwritten by energy that you do not want to have. The way that you produce more or remove time from the equation is not giving interest or not giving power to whatever is trying to block you down. And eventually it ends up being a mindset within a time of frame that if it's not pressuring you, it is looping you, it is removing ether or concentration or the ability to focus long periods of time, days in, days out, monthly periods from your goal to eventually suck up the energy, wondering why it didn't work. So, anxiety is one of the most used tactics by the scheme of things. It is induced in purpose by antagonistic thoughts of behavior that have been made a pattern to sustain any type of mindset that equals to failure, the enabled mind, and the shame of the one who removes or wants to kill the able mind because of envy or because of any type of blockage. Whenever you look at anxiety as an attack, it's inside of the one who has anxiety, the one who has not looked at time as a tool instead of a pressure buildup, instead of a weight, instead of looking at as time as the reaper or an Oz that will come and slay. The pressure of time builds up anxiety, and if you want to be above that, know that the skill frame that you develop within a set of abilities will enable the mind to slay that pressure. And the way that you want to have that pressure removed is by natural flow. You can't just like put a funnel for it to funnel down or river it down another way and kind of like turn your eye from it and not look at it, because it goes into different realms. It goes into different judges of yourself. And eventually, if that natural flow does not build up, you will never be above pressure. You will never be above time. So productivity comes within sequence, and not being pressured by time is also the achievement of that sequence. So anxiety, when you look at it, it's just insecurities. It goes back to fear, incapable, to not putting in the reps daily that you need to do, the chronicle sequence will come back and bite you in the ass if you don't tend it. So let's say you want to lose weight and you know you want to be able to reduce your weight by a natural source, not just like drinking pills or any type of weird snake oil. You want to be able to reduce your weight by increasing your metabolism. And if it requires you doing 50 push ups, maybe 100 a day, just to get your metabolism going, not eating certain foods, just by doing those two things daily, a daily input, a chronicle input, builds up the character, builds up the persona that will eventually reach that goal. And the only thing blocking that persona from achieving the place of satisfaction, well being, a blueprint, self confidence, knowing that you can deliver, that you are able to be above pressure and time have it as a utility instead of it being a consequence of an inaction and a buildup into fatness. You want to be able to turn that into a natural flow where you constantly wake up wanting to achieve, wanting to scale, wanting to perform even better than what you did yesterday. And just by doing that, maybe you add a push up every day. And now it's not 100, it's 101, it's 130 in a month, it's 200 in 3 months. It goes up and up and up and up and up until all of a sudden you're doing 1,000 push ups per day. Learning to see that will also develop into a skill, and the skill of choosing how and why you do things is something that no other persona will have, and makes you, it turns you into a substance that others are able to eat, almost as if a seed comes out of a tree and you have to build up the ability to provide that fruit in due season, and within that deliverability of ether or essence or input will clear up a path in time. And if you look at sequencing, when you look at building systematic outreach, when you look at building automation that has a utility when it comes to reaching people with events and with discounts and with promotions and with anything that you have going on as a marketing campaign, allows that outreach to have a purpose. And within the purpose, the way that you do the copywriting and the way that you deliver the information builds up momentum and equity in the conversation ahead of time. So if you're looking to kill the gap, you just need to increase your numbers at that moment, right? Because you have built throughout time the chronicle sequence that removes anxiety from the equation, and you know what the blueprint is. You know exactly where are your works headed to. You know that your spear or your arrow is going straight to the bull target, and within that map, you have confidence. You are able to see that the path is right around the corner, and removing anxiety from the equation and knowing that time is dead within that quest gives you a stronger purpose, a stronger why you are doing that activity or why you are setting the input. Within that input, you ask yourself, okay, what is the most frequent thought when I have anxiety? And once you ask yourself, how many of those can I point out? You write them down and you address every single point. And you go, okay, well, if a lack of information in the expanding of all this Web3 and it produces anxiety of not knowing how the developments are going to happen, how do you solve it? Where do you go about searching for that information? If your anxiety is that you don't have enough time to heal the body, or you're pressured by a 9 to 5, or you are uh, trying to discover how to have better health overall so that in the future you don't lack an ability to perform with your loved ones at its fullness, Ask yourself, how do you solve that? How do you go about solving that? What do you need to do to get from A to B? Because remember, you are the conduit. You are the only one that will stand in the gap. You are the only one that will be incrementing daily as moving forward in the mind. And eventually, others will be able to eat out of that. But while that time frame is in action, look at the trees, look at the seed that sprouts, look at how the development comes into play. It's not just a seed. There's a lot of raindrops, and those go in. There's minerals that the roots need. There's a whole process of growth for it to get to the fruit. And if you are a seed and you look at tomorrow as not bearing fruit because you're not bearing it already, well, then anxiety is going to be hunting you down every day. The more time it takes away from you by looping you into rabbit holes,
the more it will require of you to set information and input and ether into.
it eventually takes away from you what you could have achieved, and you decide what to do with that. Frequency is the way that you intune yourself into the eternal realms. It is the way of the purpose. It is a way of life. It is the truth of the path, the one truth that is the I am. And the one who bears witness is the one who bears the fruit. So the way that the sprouting of the root, of the conduit, of the energy going from point A to point B happens is through the persona. And the persona, if attacked by anxiety, does not stand in the gap for self, then of course there's going to be a pressuring of time. Just know this: time is dead. If you are indeed a light being, time is dead. That pressure build up by a lack of something else but time, and the pressure maybe of any other area building in, then solving it turns into a chess match. And the more that you practice the ability of solving problems, the better that you get. And the way that you help others is the velocity at which you're going to move. So if you're moving at the velocity of your 100% efforts, then where is anxiety? Because the I am is being fulfilled. It's being given the thunder. It's being given that bottled thunder that the Greeks talk about. The amount of pressure built up is ripped in two, and you are the light within. You are dividing that. You are the scroll behind it. So if anxiety is taking a hold of you, just remember that in the beginning, there was no time. And in the end, there will be no time. So, what is time?
Is it fear itself? Is it death?
Who is chronicling the seconds, the minutes, the hours? What type of pressure does that build up? Distorting the sequences of the cycles, the moon, sun, and stars. The observation of the ecoplasmic eloquency of the harmonics. No, you're too busy trying to figure out how to remove anxiety without doing anything that will remove anxiety. Yeah, just drink more coffee. It's ridiculous. You need to map it out. You need to learn that if time moves your frameworks, you're screwed. If you think that you're going to punch in an hour to hour, and just like because you punched in that time, you're going to produce, then you're screwed. If you step into a natural state of flow and you learn to navigate the waves that you surf in, learn to enjoy helping others, remove that ego from the situation, remove the pressure of what if I don't do it right? What if I don't say the right words? What if I build the wrong message? What if I don't get to my desired goal? What if, all of those what if, all those pressure points are removed by sitting down and writing them as a sequence to take action in. And then it depends on you if you give it thunder or not. Because blue maps, blueprints, there's many, but there's only one persona. There's only one persona. And if you are in that time, remove time, and do not have anxiety of the what if or the doubt in mind while not actually doing something. Whenever you map, take as much time as you need, but do not let that get in the way from taking action. Because otherwise you're going to be making numbers for weeks and weeks to come, and then you're not going to be actually putting in the efforts that will give you the numbers. And then your expectancy of having those numbers arrive will be equivalent to the amount of ignorance that you set in place with the what ifs. And if you set in place anxiety with what ifs, then the lack of performing will take you to a loop and will remove the capability of thunder. And that's eventually what you want to fight against in your mind. That's eventually what anxiety is produced from, removing that thunder. A lot of blackness. No longer is the scroll open in the other side. Break time, move at that speed, action, and as you build up, you're going to see that because of that thunder meeting in the middle and going from the lowest to the highest by the middle point, almost projecting itself to that point to meet, makes the roots sprout, energizes the field, ionizes the atmosphere. It makes the bearing of the fruit a very
mysterious process of healing in the vibrational essence of the seeds and the way that you use them.
maybe as an example, as a metaphor, or maybe to heal your body and understanding the process that there's so many mysteries out there and we claim to know it all. It's ridiculous. And because you claim to know it all,
Then anxiety comes in pouring, saying,
I already know and it doesn't work. That's never going to work for me. That hasn't been and never will be.
your anxiety is killing through vibration the dream that you had. You want to build vibration, you want to build frequency to it. You don't want to destroy it, slay the unbelief. Look at what light does in a room. Whenever you have light, it's better to see. It's clearer. There's luminescence, maybe from within, and without, you don't glow. You don't have that. Imagine that you're a lighthouse in the coast, and you want to bring in boats, and you're just a lighthouse that doesn't point the light beam to the sea. It's just there, standing without a light, no energy because the cables were bitten by rats, and now you don't have a voltage. You don't have enough energy to cast that light to the sea and be that light in the middle of the ocean. Be that light where a lot of fog is, and maybe they need to know where the coast is, and so you have more boats. Yeah. So remove the lack of light, remove the lack of thunder, and that's how you take care of anxiety. Anxiety is not knowing that you need to perform, or maybe knowing that that was a need from the beginning and you haven't done it. So, what is it when it comes to knowing or when it comes to action? Because when it comes to knowing, there's so much information out there. We are in the age of information. There's no excuse of not knowing. Now, go ahead and learn, which is at this age free. There's a lot of content out there to know exactly what you need to do, and then perform your uniqueness. Perform your action. Set the plan and put the energy to it. Turn on the light of that lighthouse. Otherwise, boats will never see that something is turned on. Same thing happens in a conversation. Many notice when there's no lights turned on inside. If the conversation has no value, if it doesn't take you to solving something or learning something or even being able to take note from, then it's just a metal that vibrates with echo, with something that is from the outer layer, and they're just, you become cold within. It's weak and it doesn't stand for self. It's not self-sustaining. So learning how to vibrate, learning how to harvest the energy from the heart, learning how to perform in that solar plexus, some would call, is the ability of connecting that flame and building within the ether your purpose of why. Removing anxiety and saying, okay, if I do this, I will go from A to B. And looking at the milestones within A and B, what is that path, will help you constantly gain more self-confidence because you are seeing it being fulfilled. And no longer are you in a blind path. Let's say you are one of those boats that are in the sea and need a lighthouse. Once that beam is point straight at you, once it's pointing straight at you, you go into that signal. You go and turn the boat straight to the shore. And you stand in land, you stand on a rock once you get there. There's no more waves, there's no more roaring thunder, there's no fog. There was a light cast out as a beam, and you made it to the treasure map. You made it to the X. Now you got the treasure. Now you have the golden coins. And the one who is able to build that light beam is who is going to set the path in action. By taking action, you get to that point. And once you get to land, you start building and you become that tree that you in the past wanted as a seed. And because of the thunder from the lighthouse, you're able to move from having tons of anxiety and not knowing what is going to happen, what's going to come out of this. Maybe I don't make it. Maybe there's no more energy left. Maybe this is the end. Any type of blockage that fear might bring because there is a lack of knowing and a lack of action is removed. It's removed by someone that set the energy forth. Because if you don't know how to do this, you're going to go into another video and you're going to see what some other persona is saying and doing. And eventually you're going to make a decision. You're going to get to a point where you need to take action. And that action that you're going to need to take will set you from point A to accountability. Point B, you didn't do it or you did it. And that accountability path gives you self-confidence, gives you the realization that you're moving forward, that you're not just stagnated like you were in the past. If you don't have movement, water will always become even dangerous. You have amoebas growing in water places that are not flowing. You have lakes, you have ponds, and you have a lot of different types of Pokemons growing there. And you don't want them going up your nose, or like it's dangerous to drink out of those waters. And when there's running waters, there's constant flow of oxygen, and through oxygen, there's many other processes in the ecosystem that flourish, that provide sustainability, that are accountable for the growth of others. That within that accountability path, you come into self-realization, you come into a successful mindset, you build up a blueprint of a treasure map, you give minerals, you give value, you give equity to the immediate area of effect. If you are suffering from anxiety, know that it comes from a lack of action and not having a blueprint, or not having a map that gives you a destiny, that gives you a purpose of the why. If you don't solve that first and you just take action, you can take unperfect action, but if you take action without the gnosis of where that action is going to take you to, and how that input is going to scale, if you want to grow even faster, you're going to
take more time.
that's it.